I feel like every time that there's one of these events and I'm talking to people about this theory and these ideas, that this is mostly all based on an ancient knowledge, coming from the Far East, but at the same time, all of this knowledge is actually literally in our DNA. It's programmed into us. It's programmed into our DNA. And what we're doing when we use the exercises is we're actually hacking in to our energy field, and we're hacking into our DNA to actually find wisdom and knowledge that's been handed there by our ancestors. And it's a really incredible thing when we can learn how to do that. And if we look at how humans have gone from in ancient times being very in touch with themselves and nature to the way that we are now, after probably several thousand years of just further and further disconnection from our true selves and our source, during which there was a whole period of hundreds of years of people being actually murdered for supposed witchcraft, which was just being able to connect with the energy field and being able to basically like tap into this energy. And it's no different from going to a gym and working out to get your muscles stronger, or going to business school to learn how to run a business, or any other education you can have. But because this was seen as like being a mysterious realm, it was thought that people were somehow seeking an unfair advantage. But interestingly enough, now, of course, quantum physics and other forms of science are basically just validating everything that the Taoists said way back when. And it's kind of like almost like modern science is now catching up with Taoism. So the topic has been shadow work. And I just want to ask people, so if you've been here before, hopefully, please, if you feel that you have benefited and learned anything, I'd love to know what you feel you've learned. Stick it in the chat. And also, if you feel like you haven't learned anything from what I've been talking for hours and I haven't got anything out of it, please let me know in the chat. Either way, whether you learned, whether you didn't, no judgment. I'm really able to take criticism. I think criticism is a wonderful thing, so basically, okay, I guess I worked on myself, right, a long time around emotions. I worked, first of all, I had some years of sitting in a psychology or psychoanalyst office or whatever it is, and of course, it's helpful, especially when you're learning to basically express yourself verbally. I think it's so important to have the skill to express oneself verbally. Yet, me, which I was dealing with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and talking about things is great, but at some point you're just going round and round and round in circles, and you're not actually moving on. Now, when we look at the energy field and we look into the body, what we can realize, and although the psychologists say, okay, it's all going on up here, right? Okay, which to some extent that's partially the truth, but inside of our bodies we also have emotions. Like if you think, imagine you're walking through the forest and suddenly you see a cliff 3 feet in front of you. Are you going to think in the brain, oh, I have an emotion there? No, you're going to feel a tension here, go and stop you in your tracks, because that's how we're built. That's how we're created. That's why we survived. That's why we lived, because of emotions. And as much as we put our emotions down, as much as we look at them as a negative thing, none of us would be here today and alive were it not for emotions. Emotions are a massive gift. We think of emotions as negative and positive, which is right, but negative does not equal bad. Positive does not equal good. But we don't know how to deal with the negative. We're not given the skills. So we kind of think, oh, angry. Oh my God, it's so bad. Let's push it down. Oh my God, he's afraid. We better hide his fear because it's a weakness to see fear, and so on, and these emotions for practically everybody becomes like a real big problem and a real big blockage, and in Taoism, we talk about that there's a healthy flow of emotions, right? But then when we're experiencing all these emotions, they're not flowing, they're not processing. They go to live in the body as a kind of blockage, essentially. And what this blockage does is it stops the natural rise of our life force energy. And when we think life force, we are created out of an orgasm, and that is what life force energy is. And the life force energy starts in the perineum, call it the base chakra, call it whatever you want. It starts right between the legs, and naturally, in a completely unblocked human being, you'd probably have to go into the middle of the jungle and find people living in a tribe where they never wear clothes and don't have any education or morality to find such a person, right? But the energy basically rises up into the belly. In the belly, it transforms into chi energy, giving strength and vitality, rises up again then into the heart. In the heart, it transforms into an energy we call Shen, which is something like spirit and love. And then it takes the third and final step and rises up into the brain, from which it produces like a kind of enlightenment energy, which actually allows us to then really see the bigger picture and connect into the realms of higher consciousness, or whatever we want to call those realms. So in these 3 steps, and of course, there's no need to worry about, activating our consciousness, right? Because all we need to do is just be human and allow our body to do its thing. And that's going to happen in and all of its own, And what is being human? Being human is breathing, it's walking, it's eating, it's talking, it's feeling emotions, it's feeling pleasure. And a big part of being human is also being a sexual being as well. And if we look at animals, and I don't know if anyone who has seen animals having sex, dogs having sex, monkeys having sex, and if you've seen it, you probably realize that whatever animal it is often not having like such a great time. It's got this drive and then together, but that the animals have a very limited capacity to really experience pleasure from sex. Apparently female pigs can have orgasms. I don't know. I haven't seen pigs having sex ever yet, whether to confirm whether it's a really good thing or not. But the point is, animals have this period, they get on heat, they have sex. It's not even that fantastic, right? And then they have babies. Whereas we as humans, we can have sex every single day of the year, as long as people are comfortable with period sex. We can masturbate every single day, Some men may be choosing to hold on to their life force, which you can obviously self-massage and still hold on to your life force energy. But this is a very, very unique thing about the human. And I don't think it's any coincidence, the fact that we have this increased ability to have like sexual experiences. And we also seem to have this capacity towards spirituality, which is different, as well as the ability to create technology in a way that's, I think some animals can make small tools, but really just in comparison, it hardly compares. Now, the ancient Taoists, they understood that this sexual energy is like so important. It's such an important part of us because it does everything for us. So Taoism literally calls the sexual energy a superfood for the soul. Now, when we think of that energy coming from the perineum, and initially it comes, it activates in the perineum, and as a young child, it actually would start to then rise up the body. However, in civilized society, so to speak, most people experience being taught more or less to repress their sexuality, which means to literally tense the muscles around the sexual organs, which then becomes a habit because it starts at such a young age. And what it does is it blocks the energy down into the genitals, causing friction, causing sexual frustration, causing buildup of sexual energy, which then becomes unpleasant, often resulting in you could call like a masturbation habit or something like that. People use a term like sex addiction, but the point is there's this energy. Oh, dolphins have sex for pleasure. Some say the dolphins are more advanced beings than humans. I don't know. Yeah. So, okay, interesting. Yeah. But, this energy is getting stuck, and is getting stuck because of belief system, because of programming, because of ability to use our mind to block off this energy. Let's turn off my WhatsApp because I'm getting messages there. So excuse us. Yeah. So essentially, when this energy is getting blocked, we're actually getting blocked off from our most vital source of this superfood for the soul. Now, for people who think, okay, what will happen if you don't tell children to repress their sexual energy? Aren't they all going to turn into these crazy rapists or do all kinds of horrible things? Well, I mean, we live in a society where children are being taught to repress their sexual energy, where porn use amongst under 10 years old is very high. Many of these will come from families where they're taught to repress their sexual energy. There's no correlation that families that are more giving more information around sexuality are somehow having children that are behaving in a bad sexual way. In fact, it seems to be that the opposite is the case, you know. And when you look at like people who are actually living in let's say like Stone Age kind of tribes, yeah, which there are some that still exist today. There's one in Venezuela that's been studied quite extensively called the Yaquana, which is very interesting to look into. So they have no morality. They're not taught morality around sexuality. They've been studied, and it's found like they actually just nobody knows what masturbation is. Nobody's ever heard of it, and people just pair bond with one person at teenage years for life. There's no sexual harassment, even though everyone's walking around naked. No Me Too movements, no sexual assaults, no discomfort around the sexuality, because the people are just living in harmony with nature. Now, of course, we're living in a very different way, and once we've been programmed to repress our anger, to repress our tenderness, to repress our sexuality, once we've been programmed in this way, we can think, oh yeah, I know I shouldn't repress my sexuality, but we're actually talking about we need to like undo a kind of a damage and a harm, yeah, and bring ourselves back to our original programming. And essentially, this is what the Tao practices are all about. They're actually about connecting in to the way that we are made as actual human beings, and bringing ourselves back to operate and to function in the way that we are originally authentically meant to be. And I find it incredible. I can say my own journey of doing these practices, how I eliminated, anyways, I'm sure you've all heard me talking about this before, eliminated various health problems, totally sorted out my head, I think is the best way to put it, you know, on so many levels. Started having multiple orgasms instead of like never having had an orgasm. But it's been really interesting watching other people learning the Tao practices, and even seeing some people who originally were doing them and they were like a little bit weird energy and a little bit kind of creepy and so on. And after a few years of doing the Tao practice, watching them like really change and just, you know, becoming like the best version, the ultimate version of themselves. And ultimately, what we're talking about here is the ability to hack into the energy field and to remove blockages to the energy. So I just mentioned now already, like, how does the energy flow? That it comes from the very bottom of the body, going through what we call these three dantians, being the belly, being the heart, being the brain. And for it to be able to flow, it's essential that we are able to basically remove the blockages that are stopping it. And that's what I'm talking about here by shadow work. So it's kind of like, it's a major part of the first step when I teach clients about how to basically get into starting to do these practices, which ultimately are the practices that are famous for making us multi-orgasmic, right? And another thing, which I think is just so amazing, because the more that I understand this, the more I realize like how perfect we are as humans, you know, because we're all like, yeah, I want multiple orgasms, right? Yeah, who doesn't want multiple orgasms? Who doesn't want great, amazing orgasms? It's like programmed and hardwired into us that we want that. And of course, a lot of people are going to say, and I've had this criticism thrown at me, oh, all you care about is sex. You're not caring about the important things in the world. You're so hedonistic. You're not, you know, looking at helping the poor people who are suffering, and, you know, all kinds of things like this that people say. But the fact is that in order to become multi-orgasmic, and I know that, you know, Mantak Chia, the grandmaster who I studied with, that I'm certified as an instructor with this guy, you know, that basically he's famous for teaching this multi-orgasmic practices, but this is about way more than just going, oh, I'm gonna like have some great porn experience or something like that. This is actually reprogramming our bodies and having like a shift in consciousness. And it's a shift in consciousness that only happens when we really, really connect in with who we are and just start being real about things. And this is why I've been talking about anger, right? Because this is one thing, it's so demonized, you know, and my post about anger, which a woman wrote a comment on it, and it's a woman I know, and works in a not too different field from me. And she wrote about how she was abused as a child, and the fact she was angry was used against her, you know, like a kind of a victim shaming thing, you know. And I was like, yep, that happened to me. And who here has that not happened to? That you've been in some way victimized, you know, and the fact that you are angry has been used against you to somehow prove that you deserve, you know, gaslighting, exactly, you know, to prove that you deserved it. And anger, in a sense, and when people go, oh, but who should I get angry at? This is not about you get angry at someone. It's not about smashing something or whatever. Smash something if you want. I'm not here to tell you what to smash and what not to, right? Okay. But, you know, I'm talking about a personal relationship. For me, it's about feeling that energy in my body. And nobody would even know I might be absolutely full of this anger, because what I've learned to do is like expand it through every cell in my being, fill myself up with it, strengthen it, and come back as a more creative person, a person who understands myself better, a person with better boundaries, a person who's more assertive, and just a better version of myself. Because every energy that we experience has a purpose, right? Every emotion has a purpose. Now, yesterday I was talking about shame, and what I call shame, it's a blocking down of emotion. So in a sense, I don't call shame an emotion. Like, it could fit in with the earth element and with worry, but it's different vibration as well, because it can happen anywhere. And it is this pushing down. And it was very interesting to actually notice yesterday when I invited people to talk, and I wasn't quite sure what response I was going to get. And I don't know if people came actually knowing what I had planned or whatever, but it was very interesting to see people who have been working with me straight away getting up there and going, oh yeah, I'm ashamed about this and so on, you know. And you know, not shaming anyone, of course, about this, but it reminded me of, you know, my past self, where there were so many things I never wanted to admit, I never wanted to talk about, and the way that I've actually ended up through working with my emotions, using this process of inner alchemy, which is the Tao process of inner alchemy, through working with these emotions, I've actually found the way to be able to basically to be able to just find these things that, you know, were my shames, and actually be like, yeah, I love this, it's cool, yeah, I'm going to shout it out to the world. And it's so transformative when we want to do that. And just let me check if my assistant is here or not. No. Okay, So I want to just extend an invitation to everybody here while we're here right now that you guys probably know, obviously you've heard about me talking with clients. I have some different options, okay, for people to work with me. So for example, I have some programs, different ticket prices, depending on basically how you want to work with me, what you want to do, and so on. Yeah, I've also created like a membership where people are actually able to work through these exercises, which are in my high ticket program, at a slower pace, but at a much lower monthly payment, right, as well. So anyone here who is feeling drawn to start working with this, first of all, if you're interested, I do offer like a free 15-minute consultation. Okay, so this is the link right here to the 15-minute consultation. I've just put that there into the chat. If you're interested, you want to talk about working with me, you have that there. Okay, I'm also going to give you the link to join my membership site if you're looking for something in a lower investment that still is going to get you like really amazing results. And I have people who are working through my membership who are saying it's completely changed their lives actually. So those are those two links. If you have any questions about that, you can also reach out to me in DM or my email. I'm sure you all know how to get in touch with me. Okay, so now getting back, and I want to just give like a little bit for people to take away from today for the last like 35 minutes that we have left, that we can really start bringing about these transformations in our lives to start to really feel things starting to happen and starting to okay, so I'm really interested now. I saw I have all these comments coming up in the chat. A good confirmation that working with emotion is a bodily thing and verbally by there, done there. I like and is touched by the inner smile. Yeah, you know, and smiling is, smiling, it's like, let's do some smiling, right? Because smiling is like the best, literally the best way to transform energy inside of the body. And we're going to do an exercise now. It's like the second thing I teach people usually. Okay, and this exercise is so powerful. I remember having one client years ago when I was working in person in London that came to me with this really bad case of premature ejaculation. He was like a doctor that just was under so much stress, you know. And I met him, we did this like 1 or 2 hours together. I taught him how to smile to his organs. And then I didn't hear from him. So I'm just thinking, oh, this guy must have thought it's rubbish what I'm doing, you know, or, you know, whatever. Yeah. About 2 months later, I got a message from this guy going, Jade, I've been so busy. I'm so sorry. I forgot to thank you. Yeah. Like, you know, this exercise itself has literally like changed my life. Yeah. I can like last in bed now, basically. You know, so this guy had like never really been able to properly make love, and he had that problem, you know, through this overcome. And I've had people through this exercise even like overcome like things like porn addiction and other problems to do with maybe relating to people of the opposite sex in terms of like intimacy. And I've even heard of a lady, not one of my clients, but someone that learned from Mantak Chia, who actually cured herself of like an incurable cancer just by smiling to her organs. Okay, so basically, right, we already got in touch with our hearts, right? Everybody's got this about the heart, right? And in Chinese medicine, in Taoism, we talk about these 5 main organs, right? And that each organ gives us like a desire. Okay, I think I talked about this the other day. So the heart, it makes us want to connect, and it gives us a feeling of love. The lungs, they give us feelings of like courage, and the spleen gives us feelings of trust. The liver, kindness, and the kidneys give us feelings of peacefulness. So does everybody know where these organs are in your body? because if you don't know where the organs are, I definitely suggest look them up. Yeah. Okay, the heart, it is basically in the center. It's a little more on the left, but it's in the center. One people sometimes don't get is the spleen. It's on the left side. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. I can't tell left from right. It's on the left side, just under the rib cage. And the liver is on the right side, just under the rib cage. And this exercise is like a great way to get started with being able to get in touch with this energy inside of your body and actually learning how to transform it. And I want you to be able to learn this like as the first step. And of course, as I mentioned, I work on the physical body, the body for 5 weeks with the clients, right? Then we go through another stage of another 5 weeks where we're actually working with where these emotions get stuck inside of our sexual organs, because it's like when we clear, the first step always needs to be to clear the outer body, okay? And this is why you have so much like tantra retreats and so on with all these sexual scandals going on, because they don't clear the outer body and they go to work on the sexual energy straight away. But because they haven't cleared certain blockages, what happens is these blockages then get amplified and it ends up being teacher abuses the student and so on and so forth. So it's very, very important to start off working with this energy in the body before actually going into working on it basically in the sexual organs. So this is the second point. And when we can actually start getting to the stage where we can clear out the sexual organs of blocked energy, using, if you remember the sound we learned, shh, to meditate with the liver, shh. And there are sounds that also go for different parts of the sexual organs. And it's really incredible because when I got to this point of using the sounds in these meditations with my vagina, this is when I really went from like in 1 week from having never had an orgasm to just having like multiple orgasms just in this amazing week. And I've my male clients doing a similar thing with their penises, finding that they have like much stronger sexual energy and erections, and yet the feeling of, you know, sexual frustration and being controlled by the energy like disappearing. Okay, so this is like a first small step on a way, but it's a big step and it's a powerful step. So basically, we'll have a look. Yeah, what are these organs? What's going on there? So in the heart, we have the element of fire. The element of fire is a red color and it contains love, joy, and happiness. In the spleen, we have the element of earth. It's a yellow color and it is containing trust, openness, and fairness. In the lungs, we have the element of metal. It's a kind of silver color. And we have courage, sincerity, and appreciation. In the liver, we have the element of wood. We have the green color, and we have the element, we have the feelings of kindness, forgiveness, and gratitude. And finally, in the kidneys, we have the element of water. We have the blue color and the feeling of peacefulness, tranquility, and stillness. Don't worry about remembering this all. I do have a genital reflexology worksheet that I do believe you should all have. It has all this information there, but if you don't have the genital reflexology worksheet, just get in touch with me on Facebook Messenger or however you're in touch with me, and my assistant will send you the copy of this. So I've told you that, but don't worry if you've forgotten it all now, because I'm going to guide you through how to do this. So we're going to start with the heart, because the heart is the emperor, is the main organ, and we're going to shut our eyes. So shutting your eyelids, you can notice that although the eyes are shut, the eyelids are shut, but the eyes, of course, can still see, but they're just covered. And we're going to turn the inner gaze, and we're going to turn and look backwards into the brain, down our throats, into our chest, and find your heart and connect with your heart, and smile to your heart, sending love joy, and happiness into your heart. Unconditional love and acceptance to yourself. So whatever you think is wrong with you, whatever mistakes you've made, it doesn't matter what they are. Send love to yourself without condition. And as you connect into your heart, you can connect with the element of fire. So you can visualize a fire and a red light shining. And as you smile there, you can notice that wherever your attention goes, the energy flows, and that you're connecting, you're growing the energy. And through the smile, you're filtering and transforming so that the energy is balanced and in harmony with your higher good. So feel this red energy and the feelings of love and joy growing in your heart. As you take 3 long, deep breaths. And then move your attention down to your left side, just at the bottom of the rib cage, placing your hands over your spleen, which is a small gland. And connect into your spleen, smiling to your spleen, and connecting with the element of earth. The feelings of groundedness, balance, and the color yellow. And as you smile to your spleen, just visualize the yellow energy growing, full of trust, fairness, and openness. And connect in with those gifts of balance, groundedness, and centeredness. And then bringing your hands up to your lungs. Place your hands over your lungs, connecting with your lungs and smiling with love and acceptance into your lungs. Connecting with the element of metal, the silver color. And as you do this, you can feel a connection up into the divine in the universe. And you can feel courage, sincerity, and appreciation growing as a silver light inside of your lungs as you smile there. And take 3 slow, long, deep breaths, allowing this silver energy to permeate through your lungs. Smiling and sending the energy there. And then place your hands at the back over your kidneys. And smile to your kidneys. Connecting with the element of water and the blue color. You can feel the connection to the wisdom in your DNA, the wisdom of your ancestors that you hold in your body. And connect with the emotions of stillness, calmness, peacefulness. Feel this blue energy filling your kidneys, as well as your sexual organs, your brain, your bone marrow, filling your being with wisdom and power. As you take 3 long, deep breaths, drawing the energy through your body and smiling so that it grows. And now placing your hands over your liver on the right side, just under the rib cage. Smile to your liver. Connecting with the element of wood and the green color. Connecting with creativity and passion to achieve in the physical dimension. Connecting with kindness, forgiveness, and gratitude. Feel this green energy growing in your side and spreading through your body, through your muscles and tendons. And then you can place your hands back over your heart and smile into your heart. Again, so we feel like we've gone through the organs, collecting the red, the yellow, the silver, the blue, and the green energy, and we're bringing it back into our hearts. And placing it into our hearts, we can allow it to spread out through every cell in our body and to spread out through our aura, healing and strengthening your aura. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes again. Just coming back into the room, just move your body a little bit. And I know there are people here who've done this before. I'm guessing there are people who haven't as well. So especially if you have not, I'm curious to hear, how did it feel to do this? Especially if the idea of working with your emotions, it seems like something you just really don't want to do. But how does it feel to do that? Because that's very different from what we think of as working with the emotions And when we get into the more intricate sort of practices, when we actually are realizing we can just go into an energy blockage and just dissolve the energy blockage using sound, using visualization and other techniques, that we can dissolve the blockages inside of the body. And then we can even dissolve those blockages inside the sexual organs that are causing things like low libido, any kind of problems with orgasms, that's causing loss of a strength of erection, that's causing any kind of a sexual problem. But what I've realized through my own experience, through working with clients, what the Taoists knew for thousands of years, is that none of this is existing, you know, in a vacuum. I mean, when I was first talking to doctors about trying to talk about my problem with having an orgasm, and I was dismissed as if what I was talking about is superfluous. You know, doctors seem to kind of have the opinion, oh, if someone's suffering with premature ejaculation, it's only really a minor thing. You know, it's almost that the person is kind of being selfish by thinking that their pleasure and their orgasm is somehow an important thing when there's people dying of cancer and other diseases around. But any kind of blockage with the sexual energy is a sign that something in the body is not going right. And I was surprised to find that actually various problems I had, including my my back pain. So it's very common that back pain is connected with a sexual problem, especially when, or a sexual blockage, especially when it's pain in the lower back, fatigue, anxiety, insomnia, repeated urinary tract and candida infections, also even the fact that I had all these amazing ideas, was working on all these projects and never was really being able to bring anything to fruition and completion. All of this was interconnected. You know, at this point, before I did this work on myself and learned how to unblock my energy, I was addicted to cannabis. I couldn't sleep without cannabis because of insomnia I had, which went back to energy blockages. I had been working on myself for years, using various different kinds of techniques, using psychology, acupuncture, other things as well. And yet none of it could shift and get me out of this place where, even though I'd stopped smoking cannabis for periods of time, it was always there in the back of my mind that somehow I needed it. And yet I learned these practices and it blew away, and all my, you know, all my desire for this thing that I'd never been able to really shift with anything were just gone. And that's how incredible it is when we go into the deep layer, because acupuncture is great, but it works on the external layers of energy. You know, I'm talking here about the energy starting in the perineum, flowing up the body. When it comes into the heart, it then transforms and it goes out into this, what we call the 12 meridians of the 12 organs. And this is what the acupuncturists work on. Yet when that energy is blocked right within the center of the being, it's like that energy the acupuncturist works on is not actually arriving there. And there's a sort of inability to really get into actually the deep layers that need to be worked on. And I think that there's also an element of, you know, I'm all for alternative therapies or any kind of a therapy that you feel works for you. You know, I'm having no judgment about, you know, whether you want to use Western medicine or other kinds of medicine. But there's something about the ability to be able to actually like go inside and go, okay, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to sort this out. You know, I'm going to take ownership of my anger and I'm going to use it as a strength, not in a way that people think when you talk about using the anger as a strength, because people think, oh, okay, well, she's talking about smashing something up or dominating someone or something like that. I'm not talking about it in that way. I'm talking about it in a very different way. And what I'm talking about here is transformation, transmutation, refinement. And this is what Tao practice is about. And that's why you have this symbol of the lotus being the flower that sends the roots down 2 miles into the mud. Sometimes the roots going up to 2 miles. taking the mud up and creating the lotus. As they say, no mud, no lotus. And if it's not for the parts of ourselves that we've been taught to look down on, the really, really amazing thing that humans can and do achieve would not be existing. And it's while we're trying to ignore these parts of ourselves and pretend they're not there, that they're then able to play the kind of havoc that the shadows are known to do. For example, you know, the fact there's so much association of sexuality with negative things, pedophilia, sexual assault, sexual harassment, so on and so forth, you know, is associated with these things. But why do these things exist? Only because sexuality is in our shadow, only because it's not in our conscious, only because we're not using it as this amazing healing force, this force that can bring us to literally higher consciousness, higher levels of creativity, higher levels of abundance. It's superfood for the soul we can use for anything. It becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of this negative thing. And I would say the same about anger. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where we're looking at all these people having these angry outbursts that we're condemning. Why are they having that? Because they're taught repress it, push it down, and then it just flies up again. When in fact, it's not a bad energy. None of these are bad. But the same, like, you know, and it's understandable why people can say, okay, pure lust is not a good thing, you know. I can see why people say that, yet at the same time, the process of the lust is an awakening of energy. And when it naturally does what it would do in a person whose energy is not blocked, it then flows up into the heart where it blossoms into love. And this is what the lotus is about. And this is what every emotion is about. This is what every act of transformation that we can do, it's about taking the things that are, you know, that we may think are, you know, even things we may feel destroyed our life. Like, you know, I was once, as I mentioned here before, having a complex post-traumatic stress disorder as a child, as a result of childhood abuse, you know, even being put with a psychologist who literally condemned me as a, you know, a lost cause, being told by society, being completely written off by society, being told like I was never going to get anywhere, achieve anything. I was just a chronically sick person, which was the message I was getting, you know, in my late teens to early 20s, that I was just, you know, useless because I was this damaged person, you know, and not accepting that, not wanting, you know, to go along with it. I think walking out and just being like, I want to find another way, you know, to deal with this. I don't feel like I'm a lost cause. And then learning, you know, obviously putting in the effort, putting in the time, learning things along the way, making mistakes, researching, going on courses, studying all I could, you know, and finding this amazing, amazing system, which really, when I was in the middle of my journey of transformation, finding this and finding a way to just absolutely accelerate, and problems that had been some years, you know, that I've been struggling with, like I'm going to say specifically my anorgasmia, because it was really, really something that was bothering me, but obviously it was at the center of all these other problems, you know, as well as my cannabis addiction, which was just coming and going and coming and going, but I didn't seem to be able to stop it, because it seemed to be the only way I could deal with my trauma symptoms. But no wonder I was using it, because my energy in my body was so blocked that I couldn't actually feel anything. I just felt numb. I just felt dead. So I was using cannabis to replace the feeling that I should have had of literally just being alive. And when I learned how to unblock, first of all, the emotional energy, and then how to start circulating inside of my body, I started getting these feelings of like a high, which was just like, you know, something, you know, I was trying to say to my friends, for example, that I used to smoke pot with, like, wow, I discovered this thing, like these exercises, I'm getting like more high from doing them than I ever got from like smoking weed. And they'd just be like, what are you talking about? You know, you must, you know, be crazy or something like that. And then I think after about 6 months, people are going, what happened to you? You seem different, you know? And I'm like, yeah, you know, well, I found these exercises, and people were just still like, what's she talking about? And then after a year or two, people started actually asking me, what are you doing? Can you start showing us? You know, it's just, you know, it's just really, really been an incredible journey for me. And watching, you know, my clients and each person that comes to work with me, like, obviously, like, I feel like, you know, invested in their journey, invested in seeing what goes on with them, how they change, how they transform. I always want to hear about what's happening, you know, and it's interesting to just see how people can take these exercises. And in Taoism, these were referred to as like a kind of like a science of energy. And I can see them as a science, because I can see, like, when people take the exercises and start putting them into practice, and obviously like a certain amount of feedback is important, because our bodies are complex, our trauma histories are complex, our repressed emotion, our programming and so on is complex. You know, I definitely needed guidance to get through my first years of this. It's not something you can just probably go and, you know, immediately figure out on your own, which is why it's always recommended to do this stuff like with a teacher. But it's really just amazing to see the results that that this stuff can have on our lives, and how it can really, like, you know, and I know there's a lot of trauma in the world. I think we all have some kind of a trauma, whether we're in denial about it or not. You know, our society exists by traumatizing us, essentially, and that's how it keeps us functioning. Yet when we can take this trauma, which is a form of programming, and we can release it, and we can get back to who we really are, the thing that it really does. And I know I've talked about multiple orgasms. I know I've talked about having the emotions cleared. I know I've even talked about, you know, enlightenment and higher consciousness, but it really, like, allows us to step into the path of our destiny, to become the people that we're really, really meant to be. Because when we look at this wisdom within our body, this wisdom within our DNA, this holds the knowledge of who are we? What is our path to walk on this earth? And when this is all cleared away, when we really have the clarity to see, and I think this is what happened to me, I would say, like, in the first 6 to 9 months of doing this, that I suddenly was like, everything in front of my eyes cleared, and I got a vision, you know, to see where I was going. And I think that that's the most incredible thing that possibly could have happened to me. So I'd like to just open up to have any questions, answer any questions. People can either type in the chat, or they can speak. And I'm just looking here at the comments. Yeah. A journey through the body in the form of meditation could be felt right into my cells. And that's it, because what we actually do, we return the cells to the original program, and we regenerate the body at a cellular level. So when we can actually learn to activate the life force energy, we can send it into our cells, rejuvenate the cells. And there's a big part of Taoism about actually rejuvenating the body at the cellular level, which means it's all about becoming like younger. And there's definitely a whole element of being sexier about it. And Taoism is a really fun thing. And if you guys can see these characters behind me, who are basically the 8 immortals of Taoism, you can see these are a fun bunch of guys, you know, and this is what Taoism is all about. It's about tapping into our childlike nature and really having fun with this stuff. So I also see someone here put, it's simple and calm. And I do think there's something about it that is very simple, step by step by step. It is simple. The steps are simple. And I think that's one of the big beauties of it, the fact of the simplicity of it. And even though I could describe to you what I teach people in, say, like week 9, and you might be like, oh my God, how am I supposed to do that? But by the time you've done week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on and so forth, you then are going to start to understand, it will all make sense by the time you get to this point. So, yeah. So I love this question here as well. It makes sense. We're trying to intellectually access something that is energetic. And I think that this is also something I point out, that one can intellectually understand Taoism. It doesn't mean anything. Having an intellectual understanding of it is pointless. It's only by actually implementing it into your life that you're actually going to get the results out of it, you know. And so people can work with this without ever wanting to talk about their traumas, and yet in a matter of weeks can get rid of traumas that a psychologist may not have shifted in years, that no medication could treat, you know. Yeah, and Patrick, makes sense why I'm frustrated with traditional work I've been doing. I'm working on thinking when I'm feeling a certain way. And yeah, I think, you know, obviously there's a place for talking about stuff. It can be really helpful to talk about stuff. However, I would just say that, you know, when we go into it on the energy level, it's like, so the results are so fast. And someone here says, can you recommend a book? I mean, there's loads of books. I guess you mean a book about Taoism. The only thing I'll say is there's a lot of books around. A lot of them give really, really misleading ideas about what Tao practice is about. A lot of people, thousands of people have read these books, copied the exercises, and really damaged and harmed themselves, some people permanently. Okay, so I would just say that even if you've attended this live, probably reading a book, it may do more harm than good. It depends what kind of a book you're looking at, what you want to know more about. But these energies we work with, these exercises that we do, they're like really powerful. We're working with really powerful energy. So it's not the same as like going to a Tantra workshop and doing a bit of sensual touch and practicing some intimacy or screaming into a pillow to get your anger out or something like this. This is like 100 times more complex. And it is, even though it is simple, it is also complex. And you know, there's certain things like that we are taught, like as instructors, like these are major red flags. These are major things like we really need to have safety protocols around. And I see people in Tantra workshops taking Tao exercises and teaching them exactly in the opposite of what Master Chia teaches to do, teaching to do things that are really dangerous with this energy. And I hear of people doing these things and hurting themselves with it. So, yeah, I would just say all of this stuff, you know, you guys, I'm sure you can smile through your organs safely. I've never heard of someone smiling through their organs and getting a problem from that. Although if you do smile through your organs and get a problem from it, please do let me know. Yeah, because I'll be very interested to know what happened. But most of these exercises, like it says in the front of the books, always do with a teacher. But Oyvind, if you want to just message me and tell me exactly what you want to know out of a book, I could maybe recommend something, but that's yeah, that's what I have to say about books, that it's not really the great way to learn it. So I want to just say again, so I put in the chat here, yeah, because also you can start doing something and be like, oh, okay, what's going on now? And without someone to tell you and help you. And I did put my Calendly link. And by the way, for people now who do use this Calendly link, I'll just give it to you one more time. And you book a call. If I can accept you to put you into my program, I can offer you a special partial scholarship. Okay, so I'd say use that link, book now. If you want to have a chat, see how this works for you, we'll have a 15-minute chat just to assess whether it's worth for us to go into it a little bit further. Obviously, no obligation. If after the 15-minute chat you want me to explain the program, we will then do that. So that's the link there, and the membership again. So the membership, like if you're feeling afraid of investing in yourself, well, the membership, it's a much lower lower budget to go in on. That said, when I look at like what it would have cost me if I never did this work, if I never changed my life, what it was costing me before not to take action about this, obviously the cost is like way higher. And what we actually get out of doing this work on ourselves, changing our lives, not just financially. I mean, I've had clients in 4 weeks, like literally double their income off of a hobby they'd never been earning money out of before. So there's that side as well, but also in terms of, you know, living under chronic stress, problems caused to the health system, of the body, and happiness, so on, divorces, which can be really expensive as well. So I just want to ask now, okay, let us disconnect from the recording.